so much for having me here tonight. I appreciate everybody coming. I know time is precious with your families, and just having some free time is nice. So thank you so much for being here and being involved in the process. I appreciate that so much. It's important to have good candidates and good elected officials at every level. I'm George Lavender. I'm from Texas County. I'm a small businessman. I'm the only one in this race that has ever created private sector jobs, and I have created private sector jobs. I was your state representative in 2013 after redistricting. I picked you up and was very proud to do that. I think Paris and Lamar County are great places. They are wonderful people. I was so proud to be your representative in 2013. And some of the things that I was able to do here was really a joy to do. I was able to work with Campbell Soup when they were talking about putting in a pouch line and getting away from cans, and we were able to help get that done. I was able to help with Skinner Spaghetti. We got enterprise fund money from the state to help get Skinner Spaghetti here. We worked with Paris Regional and Paris Junior College on issues that they had, and we're very proud to do that. One of the other things that we did was we worked on Highway 24 to give you access to Interstate 30. I was on the Transportation Committee, and we were real happy to get that done. That's going to be a real asset to you when it's finished. You had an ice storm, which, gosh, I can't really see those. You had an ice storm. We were happy to work on that. There's so many great things over here. I want to tell you that if elected, I will do what I've been doing, is protecting your water. My opponent is not on the same page on water. I believe that it's our water, that we should own it, we should control it, and we should do what we want to do with it and not have it taken by somebody else. I believe that we need more industry and jobs.
Thank you, Mr. Lavender. Mr. VanDeaver.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I am Gary VanDeaver. I am proud to be your state representative. You know, 2 years ago I came to Lamar County and I told you that I really didn't believe you were receiving appropriate representation in the Texas House. And I asked you for the opportunity to provide that representation. Thank you for hiring me for that job. You know, my dad always told me, don't tell me what you're going to do. Get to work and show me what you can do. Last January I went to Austin and went to work for you. I've worked hard, and I believe you will agree that we have some good results to show for that hard work. I helped to fully fund border security. Now, I know some of you got a handout tonight. Enjoy reading that. That's about all I can say about that. As a member of the Appropriations Committee, we had Mr. Steve McGraw come to our committee and tell us exactly what he needed to secure the border. And it cost $840 million. Our Appropriations Committee asked him, can you secure the border with that? He said, yes, we can. So we appropriated the full $840 million for border security. I'm happy to say that that plan is being implemented, and we're hearing some great things from the border, what they're doing. I helped restore funding cuts that were made to the public school systems. We funded transportation at unprecedented rates. We took care of retired teachers. We helped expand Second Amendment rights, protect human life, and protect religious liberty, and we did it all while delivering tax cuts. I'm proud of the work we've accomplished, but there's much more work to be done. And that's why I'm asking you to send me back and allow me to continue that work. I'm Gary VanDeaver. I'm a retired educator. I am not a politician. I'm a retired educator. I'm a cattle raiser from Red River County, and I'm a Christian conservative.
Thank you,
and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
If you would, we'll start with the first question. When was the first time you voted in a Republican primary?
You know, I really, to be honest with you, I can't remember. It's been probably a couple of decades ago. Like many others, the county I grew up in, for many years, I don't believe even had a Republican primary. All of the local candidates were Democrat, and so we voted in the Democratic primary. But I am very committed as a conservative Republican, and I am thrilled to have the opportunity, I'm honored to have the opportunity to serve you as a conservative Republican state representative. And I will say this, I am the only candidate in this race who has never run for office as a Democrat. Thank you.
Mr. Lavender, when was the first time you voted in a Republican primary?
I guess he's talking about me. As far as I can tell, it was about 1994, 1995 maybe that I started voting in Republican primaries. And yes, I did run for state senate as a Democrat back in maybe 92. And the reason I did that was I ran against Bill Ratliff, because Bill Ratliff passed the Robin Hood bill, which is the largest tax increase in the history of Texas. And it was only meant to be a stopgap, and yet 20-something years later, we're still using it. It's terrible for education, and it was terrible then, it's terrible now, and it's also terrible for taxpayers. And that's why I ran in that race, but I've been voting Republican since at least 1995, whatever it was, or mid-90s.
Thank you, Mr. Lavender. And state your position on the proposed lake in Red River, Lamar, Titus, and Franklin counties. That would be Lake Marvin Nichols, and the use of the water from that lake.
Well, I'm on record and have been working against Marvin Nichols for several years. I believe you have letters in those packets I gave you from people that have been in the fight from the beginning that have endorsed me, because I'm the only one in this race that's working to stop Dallas from taking our water. No matter what you might be told tonight, you have evidence that what I'm saying is true. I believe Marvin Nichols would be a huge mistake. We can never let the Metroplex come control our land and our water. And so I am totally against Marvin Nichols. Thank you.
Mr. VanDeaver, state your position on the proposed lake at Red River, Lamar, and Titus, and Franklin counties, Lake Marvin Nichols, and the use of the water from that lake.
Okay? First of all, let me say, I am very much about local control. I'm very much about local control of property rights and of water rights. I'm pleased that the two regions have agreed to push the decade of need out to 2070. Now, I realize that does not mean that it will not creep back into the plan between now and then, and I realize we must be vigilant. But I believe there's a great deal of study that still needs to be completed, and there are many options, including conservation, much improved conservation, desalination, and other issues, other options that should be priorities. I support local control of all impounded water in Northeast Texas. I'm not sure where what you're hearing is coming from. That has always been my statement and always will be. I believe it's extremely important that we keep our city at the table when decisions are being made, and I'm committed to fighting for local property rights. Now, there are those who say that the worst thing that can happen is that the lake be built. And while I agree that would not be a good thing, I believe the worst thing that can happen is for the lake to be built and us be stuck with another Cooper Lake. I think we have to keep our seat at the table and be a part of that conversation to keep that from ever happening again in Northeast Texas. Thank you.
Mr. VanDeaver, state funding for schools is already a sizable portion of the state budget, and both it and Medicaid are expected to increase. How will these increases be funded? Please be specific.
Okay, the key to funding all portions of the state budget is keeping the economy growing. And that's what it takes to fund anything in the state budget. We must continue to make Texas the state of choice for businesses when they want to relocate or when they want to expand. We took a huge step in the right direction in this last session when we cut margins tax by 25%, and we hope to do more in the next session. It's key that we keep the economy rolling and that we keep a business-friendly environment here in Texas. Now, when you say that funding for schools is growing and expected to increase, I think we really need to remember that many of those increases are really a result of the growing student population. It's not that the revenue per student is growing. You realize we are adding 80,000 students per year to the public school system in the state of Texas. Of course it's expanding. Of course it's growing. But they're coming because we're also adding 1,000 new residents to Texas every day. People in business moving to Texas is vital to keeping the economy growing, but if we expect it to continue, we must be willing to invest in the things that bring them here in the first place. Good transportation, adequate water, trained workforce, and quality schools for their children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. VanDeaver. Mr. Lavender.
Well, we do have a problem coming up in the budget. There's no doubt about it. We have oil and gas revenues are down. Obviously, that's good for all of us drivers, but it's bad for the state economy. We have right now, public education gets about 53% of every dollar that we spend out of our general revenue budget. Health and Human Services, which is Medicaid, is up to about a third now, so say 33%. Public safety is about 10%. You're about 90% of our entire state general revenue budget with those three line items. Health and Human Services is growing very, very fast. All healthcare items are just going through the roof. That's what we've got to take care of, or it's going to squeeze us in the education budget and everything. It's going to squeeze the rest of the budget out, and we cannot allow that to happen. When I was a state rep, I floated a plan which actually was adopted in Arkansas to privatize Medicaid. And they have been able to control their cost much better than we have, and it's worked very successfully for them. I will tell you that most Medicaid patients have much better insurance than any of us do because they have no co-pays and no deductibles. So it's a different system. But the problem is, the reason we don't have no co-pays and no deductibles is it's not affordable. So we have to change that and make it where that it is affordable. And I think by privatizing our health care, we can do that. And like I said, it's working in Arkansas.
Thank you, Mr. Lavender. Do you support a voucher system or tax relief for parents who choose to send their children to private or home schools? And state your reasons why or why not.
Well, I think that we have a real problem in the state. We do have some great schools in this area. We have great public schools, and I'm a big supporter of public schools. And in spite of what my opponent says about me, I did not vote to cut $5.4 billion from public education. I actually voted against that, and just a little bit of research would tell you that. And that's you can go to Texas Legislature online, the 2011 session, and see that I voted against it as HB1 is the bill. That was the budget bill. But as far as vouchers are concerned, it's not as much of an issue in this area, and I am not a big proponent of vouchers. And if they are ever done, they need to be done where that the rules are the same for all the schools. The vouchers need to have rules come with them too. But then you look at areas like Clarksville, where parents have taken their kids out of Clarksville and moved them to the other schools in Red River County because it is a failing school. And those children should not be trapped in a failing school. And so in those circumstances, we have to do something for those kids, because we can't say, this is what you get, just stay there and like it. We must provide them with a quality education, and if it's not happening, we need to give them an option to do something different.
Thank you, Mr. Lavender. Mr. VanDeaver, do you support a voucher system or tax relief for parents who choose to send their children to private or home schools? And state your reasons why and why not.
I do not support a voucher program. I do not support a tax system that will allow state funding to go to private schools or to go to home schools. Do we need to improve our public schools? Absolutely. I don't think anyone would argue that. But we have public schools across this state that are doing an excellent job of preparing our students. And we have schools right here in Northeast Texas, and especially right here in Lamar County, that are doing wonderful jobs preparing our young people for the future. Rather than pulling funding from them, I believe we need to be, and sending it to private schools, I believe we need to be investing in those public schools. I believe we need to free them from the chains of bureaucracy, and I believe we need to give them the tools they need to deal with those students who are disrupting class and keeping anyone else from being able to learn. I believe we need to equip our schools rather than pulling public funding from them. Please understand, I absolutely support a parent's right to homeschool or to choose to put their child in a private school. That is their right, and I will fight for that right. But I also support your right to build a house a mile off the public road. But if you choose to build that house a mile off the public road, do not expect state funds to build a road to your house. And I believe that's what people are wanting. They want to choose a private school and then have public funds pay for that choice. I believe it's bad for our public schools, it's bad for Texas, and I believe it's a bad precedent to set, and I will fight